Hello friends, this is Dave from Dave's Raised Bed Garden. I'm out here on Monday morning. Actually, it's close to noon. The wind is really blowing out here. My camera goes side to side, or if I lose it, I'll redo the clip or come back to it. But anyway, I came out here today. I just wanted to share a little bit with you about what I'm doing. I actually remember the last video that I showed that on March the 3rd was the first day in my zone that we can actually plant our cool weather or early crops, which mine consists of cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, and collards is what I'm planting this year so far. I wanted to show you what I'm doing and everything out here in the garden to kind of give you a little bit of idea. I want to try to make this video of interest to you to let you know how I do it, but also not to bore you, to death what I'm doing. In raised bed gardening, one of the best assets or one of the best ways to actually do your planting is something that's called square foot gardening. Meaning is that what I'm doing is I'm doing a 1 foot by 1 foot box. And I'm actually, what I can do is the app that I told you about, the Seed to Spoon, it gives me an avenue that I can look at based on how many seeds or how many plants that I can put in each square foot. So that's what I do, because I'm using both horizontally and vertically. I mean, I want to do crossways and long ways. When you do it in square foot, like on traditional gardening, if I came in and tilled up and down, it would be rows that I would be going down. And then basically when I built the rows up, then what I would do is add the plants accordingly per that road or how much space I need and so forth. And what causes you that you would have to use more space, especially if you were doing a bigger garden. The nice thing about raised bed gardening, as you can tell mine, is that each box is separated. So what I can do based on the width and the length that I want to use, I can actually put the plants or the vegetables that I want to put in there that's effectively going to be best for my gardening experience. Now, last year was the first year that I used that app, and I was very pleased with it. The difference is that in the square foot garden is that what I did is I modified it a little bit. When I did the beans, to give you an example, it told me that I could do 9 in each square foot. That didn't work good for me, because what it did is it just, all the vines and everything just they clumped up together, and it was harder for me to go in there and harvest it. So what I did is I still did the square foot gardening, but what I did is I concentrated going vertically to give me that row, so I could go in there and actually work with those rows and those plants each time. It was easier for me. So I just modified it a little bit. But what it did do by the square foot gardening is that it gives me more for less space. And that's one thing that I've done. I've actually done it with my cool weather plants. Most of the cool weather plants, because they're so big, it's 1 per square foot. So what I did is I took a ruler, I came out and I kind of used these little digits, and I come out and I marked based on approximate to an even square foot. And then I planted inside that. Now notice when I show you the plants, like the bed that I'm standing by where my potato bed is, I have a little bit more room, but I don't. Meaning is that I put 3 based on, because I can do 1, but be able to do 4, I would have to tighten that space up. So I chose not to do that. So I just gave it a little bit more, like 14 inches, and it gave me enough for what I'm wanting to do. The other thing is that I actually have planted seeds, the same plants, because last year at the end of the year, the nursery that I use, which is Mitchell's Nursery, they did not have those plants ready. So what I did is I went on ahead and planted some seeds to give it some growth and to see what it would do the time of germination. I was actually well pleased with what I saw. My seeds actually did as good, if not better, than the plants that I got. And I can't explain to you other than it's the seeds that I purchased and who I purchased it from and everything. And I was very pleased with them. I purchased from them again this year, which is M.I. Gardener. He's out of Michigan, and if you want to check his website out, he's actually on YouTube. He also has a Facebook page, and I love their seed. Based on your gardening experience, it's based on what you want to do for your garden. It's whether you use a raised bed, whether you take just some, boards or whatever and go down and mark it off. Raised bed is what it's considered as, and what it is, it raises the bed up. I can put fresh soil in there, And a couple things is that when you do it in the beginning and you do it right, you don't have the weeds like you do on regular traditional gardening. And that's one of the things that I really like. I can come out here, it's easier for me to work the soil up, it's easier for me to do my planting, and it's really been a great avenue for me. And I'm so glad that in 2018 I took the advice from my cardiologist that told me when I had open heart surgery to find something that would help me and be more productive, to get out and to do things. And when I started learning about this has just become more of an interest to me, and I've just seen how things go and how things are going and everything. So I'm going to share this with you, what I've done, how I planted them and everything, and you can tell that I've done the square foot gardening on it. I will be doing a video later on in the season when we come up to warm weather where I'll actually mark them off with string to kind of give you more of an idea. But you can search that on YouTube. The other thing that I want to ask you to do, this year is the first year that I've actually done a YouTube channel. I have my own YouTube channel, my Facebook page, with both of them are Dave's Raised Bed Gardening. I'm in no means a professional gardener. This part of this, what I'm doing is this is my journey that I want to share with you, that maybe I'll give you something that can help you and to help other people, because gardening is just not getting out here and tilling up the ground and doing that. That's one aspect of it. But there's other means of gardening that you can do. Basic container gardening, raised bed gardening, there's different things that you can do, and you don't have to have a lot of experience to do it. And that's what I want to share with you. But what I want to ask you is, every time that you go on Facebook, and you'll see that link, when you click into it, down at the bottom, just like your regular YouTube page, you'll see the like button. Could you hit that like button for me? Because it helps me with my YouTube channel, and I really appreciate it. And give me your comments. If there's something that you see, something you want to ask for, or something that maybe you can help me out to make me better, I would appreciate it. So I want to ask you to do that. Hit that like button for me. So let's continue, and I'll continue on, and I'll turn the camera around and show you what I've done. So this bed that I've come to is actually my broccoli bed. This is also my AKA my potato bed. This is the deepest bed that I have. It's 18 inches. I use it for my potatoes every year. But last year I started growing my broccoli, and I was very pleased with what I saw. I had a good harvest off of it. I actually did it 2 times. I did it sort of a later in the early season, but also I did it for the fall. The thing that, like I just shared with you, is I actually planted seeds. I actually done that this year. You'll notice that my plants are actually just a little over a foot, but I did the box, the square foot gardening in there. This is my broccoli that I told you about. Also down here on this end, I've added seeds to it. I'm excited to see what it's going to be able to do. I like it kind of higher. I wish I'd done all my beds this way. I don't have to bend over as far. And it's a good little, strategy for me and everything. And I just really like it. So this is where my broccoli will be planted this year. Now you notice this bed, it doesn't show anything. The reason is because I planted some cauliflower, but I planted the seeds. Like I told you in the last clip, is that where I get my vegetables from, the cauliflower was not quite ready, and based on it, what I wanted to do is I went on ahead and purchased the seeds that I told you from M.I. Gardener, and I actually planted these in here. I did not plant the cauliflower by seed last year. I only used the plants that I got from the local gardener here, and I just wanted to see what it would do. I wanted to try it based on the seeds that I planted last year with the broccoli from the same company, or that I purchased them from before last year. So it caught me of interest that I decided that I wanted to do it. So this bed right here is going to have the cauliflower in it. As I come up here to these beds, you'll notice that the archway, this is something that I've used. I like it so much, I'm actually going to do it again this year. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a little bit going from end to end to the beds. You'll be surprised what you can do with these just by planting a little space. The cucamelons that I planted last year, I only planted 4 plants, but I could not tell you the number of how many cucamelons that I was able to harvest last year. I had so many, I gave so many away, and so I was very pleased with it. So I like this idea of gardening as far as a trellis, as far as an archway. It just adds beauty to it, but also what it does is it allows me to grow 2 different things, which what I've done this year is that I've added peas on both sides. I wanted to grow some peas, some early peas, to see what they'll do. The nice thing about it is just like I had this bed, and it's just for other people. By dividing the bed up a little bit and putting the archway or these panels in here, I can actually grow something different on the inside than I can on the outside. So actually, if I wanted to, on square foot gardening, I can take a quarter or a half of the bed and do something. I can go up to 5 or 6 different vegetables if I wanted to. But what I'm doing is I'm actually going to do 3. I'll have the peas and then so forth on either side. So as it comes along, I can continue growing and continue planting. And by that time, my cucamelons will be in, and I'll actually use. So in square foot gardening, and then also in the raised bed, there's a lot of different things that you can do, and it's based on what you're trying to do for your family, for yourself, and others. I like to share my vegetables, and I share it with my family, and also share it with my friends and co-workers and everything. And that's something that I enjoy doing, and it's relaxing to me. And so I'm going to have the peas. Those are my early crops. They're going to be up here in this bed. Over in this bed, this is where I planted my cabbage. If you'll notice, this bed is a little smaller than the first one that I showed where my broccoli is. This is actually a 3x10. It gives it a little less space. So I've spaced this out closest to the square foot that I could, and it gives me more that I can grow and continue, and then to be able to harvest the vegetables. Also on this end, I did the same thing as I've done before that I just shared with you. I've actually planted seeds. These are cabbage seeds from that same M.I. Gardener that I purchased from. And again, I want to see what these seeds will do for me today, this year. Excuse me, I say today. I wish it could grow and then tomorrow have the vegetables, but that's not how gardening works. But anyway, this is what I've done. This is my cabbage, and I'm excited to see what my cabbage is going to do this year. My final bed is that I have 2 different crops in here, or 2 different plants. One of them is I have collards. It's over to the left here, and then over here to the right I have spinach. I planted these because these crops, I specifically planted them here because of the day for the harvest it's a shorter season, it's a shorter time. And these 2 beds, this one and then also the one to my right, this is where I planted my corn last year. Now, you say, David, how long does it take for the collards to grow? And I based on the time that I was looking at, and based on the time that what I ran into in my region is that I planted it this way because then on this bed to the right, I can go ahead, if I run over, I can actually start planting my seeds here, and then I can come down here and also plant my seeds later on. So it'll give me a longer season. If it was like a week or 2 or even 3 weeks off, it won't hurt it. But I wanted to give the what I can do based on it. Now, what I've said is about planting. You got to be able to plan out, especially in your gardening experience, is that based on what you feel is best for you. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I go through, I look at that app from seed to spoon. I go in there, I try to give my timeline, and I try to use that. Plus the other thing I use is I use the Farmer's Almanac and then some other things, because I like to see where my last frost, my first frost, was in the past couple of years, and it kind of gives me an approximate date. The year before last, I lost everything because I put a jump based on what I thought had happened, and then we had a really hard freeze, and then I had to come out and I had to change everything, and I had to replant it. Last year I did a little bit better, and so that's why I think I had a better gardening experience. So if you notice too that in each one of my beds they're spread out, and again that has to do accordingly to my planting. What my planning is for this year, I want to be able to go and effectively plant those vegetables so I can have a better garden experience and then actually have a longer season is what I'm hoping for. So I hope me being able to show you a little bit what I'm doing out here today, or what I've done and everything, and this weekend, and being able to plant some plants and actually add some seeds to it. One other thing that I want to add to it, these little markers that come with your plants, these are very important. Let me tell you why. Everything looks green out here, and last year when I planted my collards and my cabbage, I got kind of confused and everything, and these little markers really helped me to know what I have. Where my seeds are going to go, I'm actually going to get some plain ones. I'll use a permanent marker and I'll actually add to it. Another thing that I want to add, I haven't done this yet, but on the back there is a space that there's nothing on information. What I challenge you to do, or what I would say to do, is to actually write down what the date that you planted it, because on those harvest dates sometimes you can lose track of it, especially if you're going up to a 90-day. You can write it on a calendar, you can have that, but if you'll have this time, and if you'll have it on here, the date you planted it, and then your how long it takes to that'll give you that date, and then that'll give you that you can go back and look and search. So I really, any time of these, don't throw these away. Use them, because I'm telling you, these are a big help, and they help me out too. But anyway, so what I've showed you a little bit in the garden and everything, what I'm doing, my cool weather plants and everything that I've added, I hope this is something that you can use. I will be showing a video later on about how to do the square foot, especially with the vegetables, where you're going to add more seeds or more plants. I want to add that. I want to show you. You can modify it based on what you're doing. And like I said, I will be doing a container garden type setup. When I'll have a container, I will actually plant it to show you what you can do. If you don't have no space, if you have a patio, if you just have a little 4x4 area, if you have a place where you plant flowers, you can add vegetables. There's a house right up the road from me. When you look around his landscaping, when you look, you see flowers, but also you see squash and cucumber plants that are all around, right around the house, and it's very pretty. It adds a lot of beauty to it. It brings the pollinators in there, and then so it helps his flowers and it helps his plants too. So you don't have to have a garden just to grow vegetables. You just have to have a little place to actually do it. And most of your plants are done by a 1 foot by 1 foot. Now there's some of them, like your squash, it may be a 2-foot area. If you have that, you can actually plant, if you have 8 feet, or even 6 feet, you can plant 2 squash plants that will grow effectively, and you can work with those. Tomatoes grow. They grow vertical. That's the other thing that I'm going to share with you later on. I do squash. I did it last year. I'm going to do it this year again. I'm going to grow squash vertically. I'll show you how to do that. So this is something that I'm learning as I go, and that's what I want to share with you. So I hope this information, I'm showing you what I'm doing. I like to give a tour. I like to show you how my garden's doing, and that's what I'll continue doing this year. And again, from Dave at Dave's Raised Bed Garden, thank you so very much for being a part of this journey. Thank you for being a part of my channel and everything. And until next time, take care.